Hey everyone, welcome to Talking Tokens, a podcast focused on interviewing the best crypto founders, market players, and up-and-coming startups that are changing the industry every single Tuesday and Thursday. I'm Jacquelyn Melinek, your award-nominated host and former senior crypto reporter turned entrepreneur, and I'm excited to be here with you all. Now, let's get into it. Today's guest is Jesse Pollak, the creator of Base. Base is an Ethereum-centric Layer 2 blockchain incubated by Coinbase and built with Optimism OP stack. It launched last year and has garnered a pretty big following and user base since then. I'm excited to have Jesse on to talk about everything going on Base, the OnChain Summer, and other initiatives that he's following. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, super excited to have you. Last time we spoke was before Base launch, so it's been a minute. And
yeah, it's been a while.
A good minute, I thought.
Yeah, we're coming up on 1 year. So I think we're about 2 weeks out from the 1 year anniversary, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah. And you've been at Coinbase for a little while as well, right? So you created Base, but can you tell us like the backstory of how that became? What were you doing at Coinbase before? And what made them/you want to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I dropped out of college and started a company that was in the early 2010s. We were an identity company, but we mostly worked with crypto startups. And so folks like Bitfinex and BitMEX were customers of ours back in 2013, 2014. That business didn't work. And when we were kind of going through the what do we do now perspective part of the journey, Coinbase made an offer to acquire our team. And that's what brought me into Coinbase. And so I joined Coinbase at the very beginning of 2017 as an engineer and started working on the consumer product. So started working on Coinbase.com. Then 2017 kind of boom happened. They looked at me and said, "You've been managing a team before. You're a founder. You can do that." And so put me in charge of a team. And then we grew that team and it became teams and teams. And over the next 5.5 years, I took on responsibility for all of the consumer products at Coinbase on the engineering side. So my teams worked on Coinbase, Coinbase Pro, and Coinbase Wallet. And so that was this really incredible journey. I joined when the company was about 70 people. By 2021, it was about 4,000 people. I went from just being an engineer to managing a team of about 250 engineers. And I got to see what it looks like for really build a public company at a huge scale. And so that was awesome. But then back in 2021, at the early kind of beginning of 2021, I had the founder itch. I was a founder before. I've always been a founder. When I joined Coinbase, I originally thought I was only going to be there for 2 years and I was going to go start another company. And in 2021, I felt like I wanted to get back at the ground level, get back building. And I took some time off. I thought I was going to leave. But then I had a bunch of conversations with our leadership team, and I think we jointly identified that there was kind of this opportunity where Coinbase has always been a crypto company, but it's also always historically been, more centralized, more custodial. But at that time, we were seeing that we were starting to have some really meaningful traction in what we called on-chain products. Things like USDC, which today is one of the most important stable coins, things like Coinbase Wallet. But that was still a really small percentage of the overall portfolio. And so in late 2021, we kind of jointly decided to say, hey, Jesse, take all of your knowledge and your experience and the trust inside the organization and then the vision for the future that you have and figure out what does it mean to bring Coinbase on chain.
What does it mean? Yeah.
What does it mean? Literally, what does that mean? What does it look like? Yeah. And so that started what was about a year-long journey of just trying a bunch of things, and none of them worked. We went through 4 different.
Yeah.
Oh man, we were trying to figure out what does it mean and what is a product that could bring Coinbase on chain. So we built an advertising kind of protocol that was, the idea was kind of figure out a way to get protocols distribution to Coinbase users. And then as we were kind of building that, we realized, in order to do that, we need a place for apps to register. So we built a marketplace protocol where it's kind of like an app store. And then as we were doing that, we were like, this isn't quite it, but we do need an identity for apps to register. So we built an identity protocol. And that was about a year. And each time we built one of those protocols with the idea of maybe this will be the thing that Coinbase comes on chain, we experienced 2 things. One is that it didn't really click with the rest of the company. Folks were like, that's neat. but no one was like, yes, like this is it. And then two, as we were building those things, we ran into the same problems again and again. Things like, where could we build this that would support Coinbase scale of 100 million plus users? How do we build this in such a way that just works with Coinbase products? And so after a year of kind of like, wandering in the desert, some might call it, or some might call it flailing,
right.
we took a step back and said, hey, maybe before we build these products, we actually need a platform for ourselves, for Coinbase, and potentially for the rest of the world that would make it easy for us to build these products, and that would solve those questions of like, where do we build, how do we build to make it just work? And that was the inception of Base. We launched the first testnet of it internally, kind of without permission, in November 2022. Folks liked it, they got it, engineers started building on it. We brought it to Brian and other exec in December, and we're like, hey, we need a little funding to get this thing live on a testnet. And they were like, go for it. We launched a testnet in February of 2023 with that Blue Dot campaign, which went totally viral. And I think that was a moment where everyone was like, oh, maybe this is like more than just like Jesse crazy idea. And then we launched the mainnet in August of 2023. And from there, we've been off to the races. And today, less than a year since Base has launched, I think it's fair to say that Base is the market leading L2. From a user perspective, activity, developer perspective, DEX volume, we're seeing that Base is pretty consistently the biggest L2. And we have a lot more work to do. I like to say it's still day one to our team, because we're trying to bring 1 billion people, 5 billion people on chain. And we're still very, very, far from that. But I'm really proud of the start. I'm proud of the ecosystem and the community that's come together around Base. Thousands, tens of thousands of builders all around the world. And I am very, very excited to keep building and keep bringing the world on chain.
100%. How many people have joined the Base ecosystem since launching?
It's hard to count exactly, because you can't tell
whatever metric we believe.
you can't tell what's a real developer. But I think we're seeing that there's like tens of thousands of builders all around the world. We're seeing that there are millions of users who are transacting on Base, and I think most importantly, we're seeing that there are real applications, real consumer products that are being built on Base that people want to use. And this, runs the gamut of social products like Farcaster and Zora and Rodeo and MoshiCam, to games like Blocklords, to food like Blackbird. It's real social products, just like the early days of the internet. And I expect that as those real consumer products, just like the early days of the internet. And I think as those consumer products start to mature, we're going to see faster and faster onboarding of people all around the world to what we think is the next generation of the internet on chain.
Yeah, I'm a member of the Blackbird Breakfast Club. I love them. Yeah,
right?
Get my coffee from them. Yeah,
you get coffee. It's just, and I love Blackbird because Blackbird, is founded by Ben Leventhal, who was the founder of Eater and Resi before, which two of the most important food startups in the U.S. over the last couple decades. And he wanted to take a third bite at the apple. And as he thought about, okay, how do we solve more problems for restaurants? He didn't do some crazy crypto thing. He said, this is just a better technology. Like we can use this technology to make it so we can give a better experience to customers with the experience that you're experiencing around loyalty and kind of being a repeat visitor. And we can give a better experience to small businesses where they can accept payments without paying 3% to credit card processors, which in an average restaurant that has a gross margin of somewhere between 4 and 6%, that 3% credit card fee, that's like 50% of their margin.
Literally, no pun intended. Yeah.
So, I think this is really what we're excited about on Base, is moving away from the era where crypto is really just this like speculative asset and into the era where on-chain and crypto are seen as a technology platform that can enable people to build world-class products that are faster, cheaper, and more globally available than anything else online today.
I'm interested to kind of follow up on what you brought up before about how you were trying to iterate different products or protocols inside Coinbase before you came with the idea of Base. What do you think made Base stand out? Like, why do you think it was received so well, especially in like its initial 12 months? I know we're coming up on that anniversary. And when did you kind of realize, like, I think we're actually onto something here?
Yeah, I think I realized we were onto something the first time we launched a testnet internally, because it was the first thing that like we tried a bunch of other things and we showed it to other engineers and they were like, oh, this is kind of cool, but like I don't really get it.
They didn't really, yeah.
And Base was the first thing where like we put it out, like we did like a Slack announcement of like we're launching. It was called BaseNet. It was an internal test net. We're launching BaseNet, and like immediately I had engineers DMing me being like, this is awesome, and engineers deploying contracts. Like, and that signal of like real builders, real engineers getting excited about something, especially when it's a developer product, that was such a strong signal for me of like, oh, this is real. Like there's something profound here that we need to kind of push on. So that was probably the thing that kind of convinced me that this was something we needed to do. In terms of, what's made Base successful, I mean, I think it's a combination of things. The things that come to mind are, one, I think we've been lucky to have an incredible community of global builders come together over the last year around Base. I don't know what exactly drove that, but you look and you see folks from literally every part of the world, Nigeria, India, Argentina, Singapore, and they're opting in to build on Base. And then they're going and creating both incredibly cool products and incredibly profound, like genuine local communities that are excited about Base. So I think that's one big part of it. I think another big part of it is that we have relentlessly executed with Base. I think if you look at the pace of shipping on the Base core team, it is very fast. And that's because we've kept the team really lean. We've built OnChain, which I think gives us a lot more leverage. We've leaned into a bunch of technology kind of transitions that we've seen happening that I think have helped us kind of push forward faster than people might expect. And so things like 4844, we've been working on for 2 years, but we were able to kind of get it over the line to drive down fees on Base. Now fees are 10x cheaper. Things like the smart wallet from Coinbase, people have been working on for years around account abstraction. We were able to push it across the line to make it so people actually have really easy wallets that can actually transact on Base. Things like scaling gas, that's something that folks have been working on for a long time with things like Reth. And we're building on their kind of shoulders to scale Base. And so I think that execution muscle of figuring out what are the pieces in the ecosystem, and then how do we have a really small team that relentlessly prioritizes taking those pieces in the ecosystem, putting them together in a compelling way, and delivering value to everyday people, whether they're builders or users on Base. I think that's been a big part of the success. And then I think the third piece is, having Coinbase as a supporter for us. Coinbase has been able to bring a few things. One, distribution. Right. That's been incredibly valuable, helping bring users from Coinbase and Coinbase Wallet to kind of get the Base ecosystem started and give more distributions to apps in the Base ecosystem. Two, I think Coinbase is an incredibly rigorous business where it's been through bull market and bear markets, and we have an incredible CFO that's been there for now 6 years, and that business rigor has been incredibly valuable to the Base team, where I have to go and talk to the Coinbase CEO and CFO and be like, okay, we're spending money and here's how that money is translating to impact. And they're not holding me to some crypto crazy standard. Instead, they're like, Jesse, like, how are you delivering impact? Like week over week, month over month. And that's then forced me to have to go to my team and say, hey, like, how are we delivering impact month over month? And that rigor of operating inside a company that's been doing it for a decade and has such incredible leaders on the executive team, I think that has been hugely, hugely valuable. And then the third thing that I think has been really valuable is we've been able to work really closely with teams on Coinbase. So for instance, Coinbase Wallet and the Smart Wallet, that was a collaboration between the Base team and the Coinbase Wallet team, where we were looking across the kind of customer lifecycle from the chain all the way up to the very top of the user experience. And we were looking at every point in the kind of experience and saying, how do we just make this really great? And how do we work closely like every single day to make it really, really great? And that level of collaboration across the kind of user experience, I think that's very unique. It's not something that we've seen elsewhere, where we've had a lot more fragmentation. And yet it's still all happening on decentralized platforms. It's still all happening in open source ways. But that collaboration, I think, has let us build better products. And so those are the ways I think Coinbase has also helped us in a really meaningful way be successful.
Yeah. On the note of Coinbase, obviously, they are a great company to have, behind Base and everything. But how do you kind of think about the people who are going on Coinbase just buying like maybe a couple dollars to $100 worth of crypto. They just want to like buy it. They don't know anything about the on-chain economy or ecosystem or anything out there. What do you see as like the best way to bring those people to Base?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like,
is that like an effort on your end?
Simple. Oh, it's a super big priority to me. But I'd say it's shockingly simple and also incredibly hard, which is the only way to bring those people to Base is to give them things that they actually want to do. It's the only way. Like, there's no one weird trick. Like, we can't be like, oh yeah, we're just gonna like turn on the faucet and now all these people are gonna be on Base. If we help builders create applications that folks want to use because they just organically want to use them because they'd see them in the App Store and they'd be like, that looks cool, or they'd see it on Twitter and like, that looks cool. That is how we bring people to Base. There's no other way to do it. And so that's really what we're focused on. We're focused on finding and supporting developers, whether they're inside of Coinbase and building kind of first-party Coinbase applications or in the broader ecosystem and building, incredible social products or gaming products, and figuring out everything we possibly can do to help them be more successful and help them build consumer quality products that folks just love because they're great products, and then get those products in front of the people on the Coinbase side, that everyday person who buys $5 of Ethereum, so they actually have something else to do. And I think we've been moderately successful with that. It's still early. I think a lot of the infrastructure really has just gotten to the point of maturity in the last 6 months where it's good enough to build those consumer apps. And I think this summer with OnChain Summer, the second OnChain Summer, we're seeing that's starting to happen. You're seeing larger brands, folks like the NBA and USA Basketball do things on chain. You're seeing some of the long-term brands like Doodles actually take like another stab at this and say, hey, like we were originally just an NFT project, but now we're actually building creator tools that we think can appeal to everyday people. You're seeing social products like Farcaster and Zora and Rodeo and MoshiCam build things that if you didn't know that it was a crypto product, you wouldn't know that it was a crypto product. And I think that like combination of the large brands who are starting to get it more and have the tools to do great things, the long-term crypto brands who are kind of transitioning to this next era and have a lot of capability and a lot of resources to make that happen, and then these emerging kind of 2024, 2023 crypto startups that are building world-class consumer products. I think that's coming together to create an environment that is fun. It's cool. It feels like the next generation of the internet. I think that's what's going to draw people in.
Yeah, and it's not just like financially driven. People are actually like gaining something. Well, I guess you gain money in the financially driven side, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, you gain money. Yeah. And look, I think we've crypto. I'm very grateful for all of the attention and onboarding that speculation has done to bring people into crypto. But I think everyone is pretty clear that in the next era, if we want to bring billions of people on chain, it can't just be speculation.
It has to like better their lives. Yeah,
making people's lives better. Whether it's a small business or an everyday person or a builder, like it's got to make their lives better, and that is hard. It's the same challenge that startups all around the world face, whether they're building or not. 99% of them fail. And so we got a lot of wood to chop, but I'm getting more and more confident every day that we have the right technology to do it. We have the right infrastructure, and those products are starting to emerge.
Are you tired of clunky onboarding processes killing your dApp's user growth? Let me introduce you to PassKey Wallet, enabling one-click Web3 onboarding. Built by Exodus and backed by 9 years of wallet expertise, PassKey integrates seamlessly into your platform with just a few lines of code and can reduce churn and empower new users to start transacting without leaving your platform. Exodus's developer-friendly toolkit empowers users to create and fund their own wallets directly within your platform. No more drop-off at critical moments, no more seed phrases, extensions, or complicated registration flows. Users simply log in with biometrics for a smooth, secure experience, helping builders retain users and boost engagement. Be among the first to experience the future of crypto. Access PassKeys at passkeys.foundation for more. Yeah, no, absolutely love it. You brought up OnChain Summer. This is the second OnChain Summer, right? So how does it compare to last year? What do you think is like the biggest highlight of it, and perhaps like a biggest outlier that you were like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting this to be built?
Yeah, I mean, last summer we kind of had the idea of doing OnChain Summer, and OnChain Summer is a movement. It was something that we helped catalyze, but it's really just this idea that summer is the time when people are willing to try new things. They're willing to take the leap of faith because it's beautiful outside. There's energy. Their friends are doing cool things, and they're willing to take a risk. And that is the right time for us to take shots on goal of trying to onboard new people to this new technology platform and to these new products that are being built. Last summer, we worked as hard as we could to launch Base in summer because we wanted to kind of capture that energy. And we got it like in the last few weeks of summer. I think we launched Base on August 9th, and we had a few weeks. This summer, it's obviously very different. Base has been around. We did a build-a-thon in June to kick it off. We had thousands. I think we had 7,000 builders participate in that. They shipped 1,200, 1,300 different apps. So that's like builder organic energy. I think that's been really different from last summer, just because people have had more time and there's more context. I think the user experience for coming on chain this summer has dramatically improved. Last summer, that was actually one of the big learnings, where we said when we started last summer that we wanted to make it so anyone could go from never having done anything on crypto to doing something cool on chain in less than 60 seconds. And we got to the end of last summer and we said we did not succeed in that goal. Like the whole flow was like,
next summer,
literally, if you want to do something on chain, it was like, okay, well, do the thing on chain. In order to do the thing on chain, you got to go like get an app and another app that's not related to the thing you want to do. You got to get that app. You got to go through like a 12-step onboarding for that app. You got to like figure out how to fund that app. It's like this whole crazy process. It's a lot. 10 minutes at minimum.
Right.
And I think this summer we took those learnings. We worked with Coinbase and others to build on top of the account abstraction, smart wallet technology. And now really you can go from never having done anything on chain to doing something on chain in less than 10 seconds. You put in your fingerprint, boom, you're on chain. And that's a big transition. It's showing up in the metrics for us too. We're onboarding more people. Developers are onboarding more people into their apps because it's easier for them to. And I think we're starting to see brands get it a lot more. So like, for instance, USA Basketball, they just did this really cool mint. It's a simple mint. It's a commemorative mint. But they saw tens of thousands of people just one click and get it. And it's not this complicated thing where you need to go get a separate app. You have to get out of the experience. Just one click, scan your fingerprint, and you have this thing that's on chain that's forever yours. And so that onboarding shift, I think, has been really, really exciting. And I think it's a big difference from last year. And then I'd say the last thing that feels really different to me about this on-chain summer is it's incredibly global right now. Last summer, we hadn't had the time really to build global communities, but now I think we're seeing that there's on-chain summer happening all around the world. For some people, it's on-chain winter. Shout out to the folks in the Southern Hemisphere. We're cooking on some plans for their summer as well.
There you go.
But we now have communities in almost every country. I mean, I don't know about every country, but I think like 70 countries all around the world on every continent, except for Antarctica, maybe one day, that are just fired up about Base and fired up about on-chain and fired up about bringing their local communities on chain. And what that's leading to, I think, is a new pathway for people coming on chain, where you have folks going into their local communities and figuring out, okay, well, if I onboard folks by sending them USDC, that works. Or if I get my local coffee shop on chain to accept USDC, that works. Or if I run a tree planting campaign to improve my local forest, like that is a way of doing it. And I think that kind of on the ground, community driven onboarding happening in every country around the world, that's new. And I think that that's one of the things that gets me most excited and most bullish, is that if you just multiply that by the number of people that's happening, it's like, oh, this is actually how we would onboard the world. It would happen through thousands, tens of thousands, millions of local communities where you have one person who gets it. And that one person finally has the tools to onboard the 10, 50, 100, 1,000 people in their local community and give them a better life, because they're now on this global on-chain economy that's increasing innovation, creativity, and freedom, and putting them on a level playing field where they get access to the same financial services, the same products as everyone else, everywhere in the world.
Yeah, it's like a ripple effect. So like one person does it and then suddenly they teach another. And like also what you were saying about like the MBA or the coffee shop, like it might seem like simple to us, but it's a step for them.
Totally.
And it's like a step itself. And like that is a big piece of progress for people who are not in this space at all,
Totally. And I think once people see it, like whether it's a brand or a small business, like once they use the technology and they get the change in the economics, they never go back. Like
it's not as
like
daunting.
It's like people using the internet. It's like once you use the internet, you're like, oh, of course we're going to have this now. And I think that same thing is happening with OnChain, and it's happening faster and faster. And this is one of the things that I love. I feel like I kind of have to do it if I'm going to be leading this movement. And so on my honeymoon, I tweeted about this, but on my honeymoon, I onboarded 117 people on chain.
Oh my gosh. Like, was your wife bothered, or she was like, it's fine?
No, she loves it. She loves watching me. And
she was helping.
But it's like literally every time I was, interacting with someone who's driving us in a taxi, or we were going out to dinner, or, we were getting on a ferry, or we were sitting with some group of, Americans who never heard anything. At some point in the conversation, I'd say, what do you know about Ethereum? Have you heard anything about crypto? And you get all sorts of replies. People have heard all sorts of things. But now I can say, okay, that's an awesome starting point, but let me send you $5 of USDC. And I text it to them, because you can do that now, and they get their wallet instantly, and boom, now they're on chain. And then you tell them, you're now part of a global economy that's not controlled by any one corporation. That's accessible to everyone, where it's faster and cheaper and easier to do things with money, and really things with the internet than it's ever been before. And the way I just brought you in was by showing you that I could send you $5, and the same way of sending would work for anyone in the world, and it would cost basically nothing. And that like experience qualitatively, you just see people's eyes light up, and they're like, oh, that's what they're talking about when they say crypto. They're not talking about the crazy Ponzi schemes. They're not talking about the Lamborghinis and the pump and dump. They're not talking about the speculation. They're talking about building a global economy that works for everyone. And I think it's becoming clearer and clearer, and folks are getting more and more excited about it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I think also just showing people in general is so much easier than like sending them like a big blog post or a white paper and be like, this is why it matters, like that would make a lot of people run for the hills.
Yeah, right. Totally. You can't tell, you got to show. And finally it's good enough to be able to show people and be compelling.
Yeah, amazing. I also saw that Base put out a blog post recently about its roadmap for decentralization, like stage 0, stage 1, stage 2, etc. I know a lot of chains want to be fully decentralized, but I want to hear in like your own words, why do you think it's important for Base to be decentralized, especially when it's kind of like attached maybe still with Coinbase, which is centralized? You could change my wording if you like.
Yeah. We say incubated by Coinbase.
Yes.
And if you look at the history of networks, many of them have been incubated by corporations. Part of the process. You have to start somewhere. Starting with our mission, the base mission is to build a global on-chain economy that increases innovation, creativity, and freedom. And I think the thing that we have realized, and the thing that drives us towards decentralization, is that the only way to build that sort of global economy is for the economy and the platform that it runs on to be decentralized. If you're not decentralized, if there isn't decentralization in the underlying platform, inevitably it will be co-opted, whether it's co-opted by a corporation, who gets to set the rules arbitrarily, for instance, like the Apple economy, where they're taking 30% of every transaction that's happening in it and gatekeeping who can participate, or whether it's co-opted and controlled by a single country, like the United States economy, which is an amazing economy. We're so grateful to be a part of it. But if you look at the United States economy, it's only accessible for the most part to U.S. citizens to start to build in it. If you're not a U.S. citizen, you're not going to have credit. You're not going to be able to do things in the economy. You may not even be able to open accounts. And you're seeing that a single government is making kind of at times capricious decisions about how that economy works. With crypto, for instance, where they're saying, hey, like we're not even going to create clarity for entrepreneurs who want to innovate in this economy. And so I think what we're seeing is that really, if you want to avoid that sort of control by a corporation or by a single country, and you want to make it so everyone, regardless of where they're born, regardless of where they live, regardless of what they decide to do with their lives, can participate in the economy, the only way to do that is by making it technically decentralized, such that it cannot be controlled or co-opted by a single party. It's the only way. Because everything will naturally go towards centralization. We've seen that with the internet, and we've seen that with the reality of the internet today, which is that a small number of very large corporations have disproportionate control in what all of us do with our lives on the internet. And so that for us is the starting point. It's if we want to build a global economy that increases innovation, creativity, and freedom, the only way to do it is to build it on a decentralized platform. That's why we built Base as a layer 2 on Ethereum, because Ethereum is the most decentralized kind of global layer 1 that is possible to build kind of these sorts of applications that we want to see. It's why we built Base on the OP stack, because we felt like us contributing to an open technology platform that was a public good that anyone could benefit from further those goals of decentralization. And it's why we are, from the beginning, aggressively pursuing a decentralization roadmap for Base, which most recently is bringing us very close to stage 1 decentralization, which will happen, in the next few months. I think on Tuesday of this week, we announced that fault proofs for Base are now live on testnet. That's a huge milestone. We got to get it live on mainnet, but once we get live on mainnet, we'll be stage 1. And stage 1, for those who are maybe listening in and don't know, it's a classification, stage 0, stage 1, stage 2, kind of created by Vitalik, that kind of frames up, how decentralized is this network, with stage 2 being kind of the same as Ethereum, inheriting all the properties, whereas stage 0, more centralization characteristics, kind of more training wheels. So getting from stage 0 to stage 1 is a huge milestone, and it's something we've been working really hard on Base, and it is at the core of why we're building Base and how we think Base will make a positive impact on the world to be decentralized.
I love that. And I appreciate that you gave the definition of that, because so often we have people on who are very technical and we love them, but they don't explain the terms sometimes. So I'm glad you beat me to that, honestly.
Base is for everyone. That's another mantra that we hit on a lot. Base is for everyone. And everyone includes folks who, are new to the space, or maybe listening and haven't heard of Base, or haven't heard of Ethereum, or haven't heard of Vitalik. And those people deserve to be a part of this on-chain economy as well. And we need to find ways to bring them in and to help them understand. And sometimes we don't even need them to understand. We just need them to see what's going on and get to use the products and be like, whoa, this actually just works.
Yeah. Do you see a world where Base kind of goes off? I mean, if it's going down this decentralization route, right, it's going to become its own independent entity eventually, is the end goal, right? So would it be then separate to Coinbase and even the Superchain ecosystem and be its own operating thing, or it'll always kind of exist within those worlds?
Yeah. So, vis-a-vis Coinbase, I think we have a lot of figuring out to do. The way Base operates today is independently inside of Coinbase as a startup. I report into Brian. I have the freedom and independence to run Base as its own team. And, we've been very clear. And from the beginning, Brian, literally day 1, we launched the testnet. Brian messaged me. He said, awesome work. First thing. Second thing is now you actually need to deliver. A testnet doesn't count. Deliver.
Keep going.
Third thing is decentralized. If we don't decentralize this thing, all of our work will be for naught. And so from the beginning, that kind of push from him, and I think the ethos and thesis from us, has led to us creating kind of separation between Base and Coinbase, having its own brand, own operating structure, own execution, own budget. And so I think that's a good start, but it will get further decentralized in the years ahead. And I'm excited to kind of further explore that path. On the Optimism and Superchain component, Base is a part of the Superchain. It's a part of Optimism, and it's a part of Ethereum. And this is a really important thing for us. Base is Ethereum. And, there's all sorts of noise on the internet about, all these layer 2s, they're just going to abandon Ethereum. And, that's not how we think about it. We think that we are building a part of a much larger whole, and that this economy is going to benefit from being a part of a larger whole. Just like states in the United States benefit from being a part of the larger whole, we believe Base is going to benefit from being a part of the Superchain, and it's going to benefit from being a part of Ethereum. And so we've been working very intentionally to make sure that folks have certainty around that. That's why we helped write this thing called the Law of Chains, which kind of governs the operating of Base, and it governs the way the block space is kind of set up, and it ensures that folks can have surety around its connection long-term to Ethereum. That's why we've committed to the Superchain. That's why we're core developers of Ethereum and contributing to things like 4844 and the upcoming Pectro release. And so I really believe that we will succeed together, and we'll be able to go much further together than we could go alone.
Mm-hmm.
And that is at the core of how we've built Base as a part of Ethereum, as a part of the Superchain, as a part of and connected to Coinbase, and hopefully creating an economy that everyone can participate in.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it's all about like the saying, rising tide lifts all ships. And I really do think it's more beneficial when people work together, especially with these chains, opposed to just being like all for nothing or.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I think it's proving out, if you look at the activity on Superchain, it's growing very fast. I think if you look at the success that Base has had, I think there's a meaningful part of it that comes from folks feeling confident to build on Base because they see the connection to the Superchain and the open source and the Ethereum. And so I really do think these things are win-win-wins, where it's a win for Base, it's a win for Optimism, it's a win for Ethereum, and it's a win for the world because we are going to have an economy that's not controlled by one company, that's not built on closed source, closed databases, but instead is for everyone, is built by and controlled by everyone, and is built on open standards that anyone can contribute to.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. On that note, do you think that Base would maybe like cross communicate or work together with other Ethereum L2s or even L1s that are not like in the Ethereum ecosystem at all?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So another basis for everyone is probably our top mantra value. The other one is Base is a bridge, not an island. And what that means is that when we built Base from the beginning, and a big part of this was actually why we built as a layer 2, was we didn't want Base to be a place where we created a silo for Coinbase users or for users generally. We wanted to make it so folks could onboard onto Base, but then they could go and transact everywhere. So that led us to build on Ethereum because Ethereum was the largest economy, is the largest economy on chain, and we wanted to be a part of it and let people go there. It led us to build on the Superchain because we knew that if we built on an open standard, we could have more interoperability and connectivity to all these other chains. And it's led us from the beginning to prioritize working with other ecosystems and not take this zero-sum mindset. And so absolutely, we're already working. I just did a review of this yesterday on interoperability between all the Superchain chains. That is going to testnet, I think this quarter or next quarter. Mainnet, I think they're sometime early next year. That's going to make it so you can seamlessly and trustlessly move assets across Superchain chains in the Optimism Superchain. I think that's going to be a huge milestone. We're also obviously contributing to Ethereum and finding ways to work with all the other layer 2s. For instance, 4844 was a big collaboration between us, the OP Labs team, and the Prism team, which is at Arbitrum and a core contributor to Arbitrum stack. And so we are really looking for ways to grow the global on-chain economy. And we think that that's going to be done by all of us. It's not just going to be Base, and we're all going to be served by having these kind of bridges between Base, other layer 2s, Ethereum layer 1, and other layer 1s as well.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see that kind of pan out and everything on that front. Given that Base is still in its early days, right? We're about a year old almost. What do you really want to see happen with it? Like when it comes to consumer apps, DeFi, protocols, meme coins, whatever it may be, what's being built on it. If you could look back, let's say in a year's time or 5 years and be like, I'm so glad that happened, or this is exactly what I wanted. Like, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just people build great products that other people love. Like there's no one segment where I'm like, oh yeah, like this is the only thing that matters. Base is meant to be a global economy. And I think a big part of that is having space for everyone. I think there's an ethos that I feel probably most attached to, which is that I want folks who are building on Base, I want the products that are coming out of Base to be real, genuine, positive impact on the world. Like if we could look back in 5 years and be like, wow, like the next 5 apps that got 1 billion users were built on Base, and all of them were positive for the world, and they were open, and they were built to open source, and they were built on these open databases and blockchains. Like I would be incredibly proud of that. The other part of it is, I say this phrase like stay based a lot, which I think is a mindset. And it's a mindset around like, how do we show up and how do we build those products? And at the core of that mindset, it's things like, we succeed as a team and we work better together than alone. We do the right thing, even when it's hard. It's we work really freaking hard because it's going to take hard work to transform the global economy, to do something new. We're incredibly creative and we're not afraid to push boundaries. I think if we could see the world kind of embody those values more, and Base have a cultural impact as well, beyond just a product impact, where we're helping push the world towards a better cultural kind of standing, and the internet towards a better cultural standing. I think that would be a really profound impact as well.
This podcast is sponsored by Galaxy. If you're immersed in the world of Web3, Galaxy is a name you need to know. As a decentralized super app with an impressive 21 million users boasting over 100 million monthly transactions, Galaxy is elevating its impact with Gravity, the magnet chain for Web3. Gravity is designed for full chain abstraction, zero knowledge proof-based privacy, and rapid transaction speeds, all coming together to offer an unparalleled user experience. Gravity opens the door for developers to effortlessly build on the largest on-chain distribution platform, and for users, it promises an even smoother, more secure journey through Web3. It's not about being on-chain, it's about being on the right chain every single time. Galaxy is on a mission to onboard the world to Web3, and Gravity is the magnetic force that will propel the vision forward. Ready to launch your Web3 journey? Build the future on Gravity. Visit gravity.xyz for more information. Yeah. No, for sure. Do you think there is, I guess, let me rephrase that question. What do you think is the timeline for Base's on-chain economy to really be integrated into mainstream audiences? I put out like a tweet where I was like, oh, I'm interviewing Jesse again. What questions do you have? And someone was saying like, they thought payments on Base is such a low hanging fruit. I want to be able to use USDC to buy my groceries. And they want to know essentially like, would you work with big retailers? What is the timeline for something like that like?
I think first off, I'll caveat all this by saying I'm an eternal optimist, and I've been wrong on timelines before.
Of course.
I think that's kind
timelines
of like
are relative.
What comes with being founder is like you always think it's going to happen faster than it is.
Right.
But I do think that we've kind of entered the end game here. Where the technology is mature enough. And I think that people are going to be surprised at how fast it happens. And in particular, I believe that because I think people are very conditioned to think about the internet as the analogy. And therefore, they're very conditioned to think about this as like a 30-year, 40-year overhaul. But one of the big differences between the on-chain revolution that's happening right now and the online revolution that drove the internet was that in order to get the internet to everyone, you had to deploy hardware to everyone. You had to dig trenches to lay fiber. You had to get hardware like phones in the hands of everyone.
Literally.
But today, all of that exists. Everyone is already connected to the internet. And what we're talking about is a software upgrade. We're upgrading the software systems that run on top of the internet that power the world. And I think that can happen much faster. And I think crypto folks have been conditioned a little bit by that analogy, and then a little bit by the first 10 years of crypto, where we haven't really had consumer products other than speculation, which has been this kind of spiky growth cycle. And I think what we're about to see and what we're already starting to see is real consumer products, not just speculation, that look a lot more like consumer growth cycles. If you look at the way TikTok grew, didn't take 10 years, and it wasn't spike and then flat. It was like, oh no, we're just going to do like an exponential growth curve until billions of people are using TikTok. Right. And I think we're starting to see that kind of bottom of the growth curve with consumer products being built on chain. I think it's going to accelerate and accelerate and accelerate. And I expect that in the next few years, we're going to start to see millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, potentially billions of people starting to come on chain to use these products. And so I'm very optimistic. I do think that payments is one of the places where we're already starting to see that happen. Like if you look at stablecoin payments today, stablecoins are settling more value on a daily, monthly, yearly basis than PayPal, than Venmo. The number of holders of stablecoins and transactors of stablecoins are growing month over month. I think that's just going to keep growing. I think we're starting to see it with social. Even things like Blackbird, that's growing really meaningfully. And so I think that we are, just in the last 3 to 6 months, we've seen the kind of technology mature where you now have fast and cheap platform in things like Base. You have really easy to use wallets that don't take 10 minutes to set up. And you're starting to see social distribution with things like Farcaster. And that combination means that it's now possible to build the products that people want to use because it's cheap enough and easy enough. And then it's starting to be possible to distribute the products that people want to use because you can plug them into real social graphs. And so that combination of things, I think, is creating a very fruitful moment where for the first time, like the window's open. and people are building these consumer products. And now it's just a question of kind of what's going to hit and how fast is it going to happen.
Yeah. Is there a specific sector you think will be like the first one to the finish line on that front?
I don't know what will be first. I mean, this kind of informs our thesis on Base. It's like we want to enable us and our ecosystem to take as many shots on goal as possible. And so like that's kind of how we think about OnChain Summer. It's like every day we're taking a shot on goal. And our hope is that like some of them hit. And you know, if we take 90 shots on goal and 2 of them hit, like that counts. Like it's meaningful. We'll see growth. One thing I do think is that once you have one that really starts to kind of like cross the line and see that viral consumer growth, we'll be off to the races. Like it's not going to be like one breaks out and then it takes years for everyone else. It's like, oh no, one breaks out and now it's like boom, 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 boom. Like because these things will cascade from both kind of like there being more users on chain who can then go transact to do other things, but then also people seeing, oh, this is what worked. This was the user experience that worked. This is the infrastructure that worked, and kind of adopting that. And so I think, you know, it may, well, actually my thesis right now is that those products are already being built. Like they're already live. They just haven't quite dialed the growth mechanics of it and the product mechanics. And so the founder is out there who's going to be first through the gate. It just isn't quite accelerating at the speed it needs to. And so I'm just going to do everything I can to support those folks and make them successful and hopefully bring up the timeline with which the world comes on chain.
Amazing. Last 2 questions, Jesse. What else are you watching right now in crypto that we haven't talked about that you think others should pay attention to?
It's a good question. I mean, one thing I'm very excited about that we haven't talked about, and I think deserves more discussion and progress in crypto, is that currently the crypto economy, the on-chain economy, is very dollar denominated. And I think that's a good thing in a lot of ways. You know, obviously it gives people stability where they're not able to access that, you know, in their local economies. But I also think that it's problematic in a lot of ways. And in particular, when you're thinking about onboarding new people into financial services powered by crypto or built on chain. And as part of that onboarding experience, you need people to not only use a new technology, they also need to change their worldview about money. Where it's like you're used to spending and saving in your local currency, but now like you have to spend and save in dollars, or you have to spend and save in Ethereum. That's a really big user experience hurdle to get people over. And so one of the things that I'm very focused on, and the Base team is very focused on, is growing the number of local currency stablecoins that exist on Base and that exist, you know, generally in the world. I would like to have a local currency stablecoin for every single country in the world. Because what that would let us do is it would let us change the onboarding conversation. So instead, it's just like, you can still use your same money, you can still save your same money, but now it's just faster, cheaper, and better. And that's such an easier conversation, and familiar, right? Yeah. Like it's so much easier to onboard someone where it's like, yeah, you can do the same things you've been doing. You don't have to change your habits, but now you can just do them faster, cheaper, and better, and you can make more money. And then from there, they can decide, oh, maybe I want to save some of my money in dollars, and it'll be easy to convert to USDC and save in a, you know, yield-bearing account. Or I want to save some of my money in Ethereum. But I think that shift where we actually like give people the economic experience that they're used to, but powered by this new technology, I think that's a really, really important transition. And it's something that I'm very, very bullish on, and we're working hard on it. One milestone that's coming up is the launch of EURC on Base, which is a euro stablecoin from Circle. And I'm super excited about that. You know, the euro is the top 3 currency. I think that we'll see a lot of usage of it. And it will, for, you know, the hundreds of millions of people in Europe, give them that simpler onboarding experience. And now we just need to replicate that to literally every single currency in the world. Yeah, no, I like that. I haven't even thought about it like that, but Americans tend to think of others when they think about, do they speak English? Is it available in dollars? Blah, 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 all that. So that's a very good point. I actually really like that. Last question, Jesse, can you leave us with a piece of advice, something that you've carried with you throughout your time in the crypto space? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking about like the founding of Base and what kind of let us do Base. And I don't know how, this isn't good advice maybe, but it's just like, there's no replacement for, as you're building a product, figuring out who your customers are and just talking to them. And for us, it was engineers. It was like our first customers were engineers at Coinbase. And I think for many people out there in the world, it's going to be really different than that. But figuring out who are those customers, getting something, building something, even if it's just a test net, and getting in front of them and being like, what do you think about this? Does this work? Does this solve your problem? And then relentlessly working hard to make it better. Like that's the story of Base right now. It's just like we have a team that's small, that's hungry, and that's working super hard every single day to understand what people who are building on chain need and make it better for them. And I think I want to see more people in the on-chain ecosystem doing that, where I think we get distracted a lot of times by the money and the tokens and the speculation. I think all of that is noise. All of it is noise. If you are a builder, the only thing that matters is, are you focused on solving a real problem for our people? And are you making progress every single day in making it better, making a better solution for them? And so that's the kind of builders we love on Base. That's what that's when I say that people are Base, that's what I mean. And I think that's what's guided our work thus far.
I love that. I love that advice. Feedback is so valuable. So I definitely resonate with you on that. Jesse, thank you for coming on the show today. It was such a pleasure. Loved hearing everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jacquelyn.